I'm always begging.
All right, it is 6:30 p.m. Monday, October 17th. We're calling this workshop meeting of the Lewisville City Council to order. First up on the agenda is the discussion of the regular agenda items and consent agenda items. Item E1, public hearing. Item E2, public hearing, special use permit for storage yard. Item G, consent agenda. Item number 3. Item number 4. Item number 5.
Mayor, we're going to have to pull that one from the consent. So on this item specifically, you guys probably read about the ratification of the contract. So under Texas law, you can't actually pay the insurance provider directly. You have to go through a broker. And so we're just going to clarify that in the motion. So that's the only reason we're clarifying in the motion that it's going to be paid to the broker. We'll then remit payment to the, and we have that language, I think.
Is that language in Granicus, Julie, or is it only in?
It's in Granicus,
okay.
yes.
And I'll also state that on the record out there, just so it's on the same meeting record.
Right, so we'll pull item 5. Item 6. Here we go. Another step. Item 7. Item 8.
I did want to point out on item 8, it's just a typo on there, but if you may have noticed on your social service agency performance measures goals that were attached, the one for, it's not really consequential, but for New Hope Learning Center, we have the contract goals and the agency service goals flipped. So it looked like we're providing 500 and something% of their funding needs, and it's not. So it's, the two numbers are flipped. It's correct in the contract, it's just not correct in this document.
Okay. Item 9. Item 10.
I have a couple questions.
I had a question about that as well, but go ahead, Patrick.
First, I'll check the deal,
Are you
right?
sure?
Listen, I'm going to put the gavel in the middle of the table.
So I was just curious, maybe it's in here and I just didn't see it, but does it say how much they were able to use, or is it like they haven't been able to use anything?
Ashley, you want to answer that question?
They have spent a small portion of their funding, but they haven't spent a lot of it. What's remaining on their agreement is how much is left of their original award. So I think they were originally awarded $58,000 for this, and they're at $52,000.
Okay. So about 6,000.
Yeah.
That's what they've spent so far. Okay.
But they feel confident that they're
They
able to
finally
spend
were
it
able
all?
to hire somebody. So that was their biggest delay, is finding a licensed practitioner to provide this service. So they finally were able to hire somebody, but they had to raise the salary a little bit to hire that person. So that's why they've asked for the increase in cost per service.
Okay.
So I had actually the same question, with a couple more follow-ups. So whenever I see that we're stuck behind hiring one person, immediately I think, well, what happens when one person goes? So is there, how do they have a plan that one person decides to like a job, or are they just out again?
That's a good question. I can definitely follow up with you, place. They don't currently have a backup person. This is a brand new program that they were trying to bring to the agency.
Councilman Kelly, I do think that's, during COVID, there was a lot of these services that were provided weren't necessarily services that were provided prior, so they were trying to gear up to address an issue that was suddenly happening. And so you're going to see that a lot. I mean, United Way, I think, just had to lay off several people that because they had to staff up quickly for COVID, and it's the same thing for this type of stuff.
Well, and this one I think is also in reaction to, we've got a lot of suicidal ideation in children that's coming as a result of COVID. So they're just seeing a much bigger need, and they didn't have the staffing for it previously.
Okay. And the last question I have is, typically when I think about any kind of healthcare service, I think about that being billed on a CPT basis, which is a percent of Medicare. So I'm just wondering how it went from $58 to an 80% increase to $90. Was there a process for that other than it's just a percent of salary to cover salary?
Correct.
There's no basis for what other people are doing like this particular charge code?
I can get that information for you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, so typically, my understanding, you can expound on this a little bit more, is that they figure out how much it is to cost to basically provide the service that they're going to be contracting for, and then they divide it by the amount of services that were serviced, and that comes to your unit dollar amount. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's consistent across the board. Okay. For all nonprofits, so it's not just the medical, which is I think what your information is coming from the medical side, right?
Yeah, my background at being a medical guy, that's all done by CPT code. And as you do this thing, you charge the CPT code and you get $58 for it. Or work RV would be another way to go about doing that. So typically you base charge off of that, not by doctor's salary or anything along those lines. So I was curious if they follow that same process.
It does not. So we make all of our nonprofits follow the exact same process, but it's something we can look into if that creates better efficiencies in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We done with item 10? Item 11, regular hearing. TERS 2. Item 12, economic development amendment. Item 13, variance to Castle Hills PD.
I had a question about this one. I don't know who's the right person to ask. Is it
Ask
you?
the question and then we'll figure it out.
Okay, so that 5-foot sidewalk that's on Business 121 in the right of way, is that a requirement from TxDOT?
That is our requirement.
That's our requirement?
But they do allow this public sidewalk to be in the right of way. It's typically about a foot off the right of way line.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, that's like right when you're going from, as soon as you get past 544, that's the ramp to get on the highway. And I'm just thinking, it just doesn't seem like a good idea to have pedestrians near the street. So I was just wondering if that was, we have that because it's just if it's a TxDOT requirement, or, I mean, could we not have a wider sidewalk up against the building? I mean, most people are probably going to walk there anyway, I would think. I just don't want to make them put a sidewalk out there that no one is ever going to step foot on.
Typically, once that whole block is completed, that end of it will connect to the sidewalk along San Rayburn Tollway. A lot of people, when they walk, they like to, make a block instead of, going around, turning around. So we'll continue working with them as they continue the phases within that block to make sure all the pathways connect.
You're saying you don't want any sidewalks on?
I'm concerned about how close that sidewalk is to people going 70 miles an hour. Like, people are, I mean, I went through there today. People are hauling through there, and that's just really close, having people really close to the street.
Right now, that's in the planned development district, right, as a requirement? Yeah, we can look at
Could
it.
we pull, if nothing else, could we, it looks like there's a little bit of space in the property. Could we pull it on that side? Just, I don't know, it just seems really, really close to me.
Yeah, in that area, the right-of-way is exceptionally wide, so you don't have the typical 5 to 6 feet of parkway. It's a much larger parkway, especially if there's a Bardage section, so sometimes you have 20, even 30 feet between the sidewalk and the actual pavement, so you're not right up against that 70-mile-an-hour traffic.
Yeah.
It's usually a way off, and we found that...
Also a merge right there too, because like, if something happens and somebody doesn't, there's a merging of the traffic right there. If something happens and somebody's going really fast, I can just see them flying into the sidewalk. I wanted to ask.
Yeah, typically in these type of situations, it's better to have a sidewalk because those are usually the areas where you start seeing a little pathway. It may not be a real heavily walked area, but like I said, a lot of people like to walk in loops around a block like that. So, like I said, we'll continue evaluating that, but the requirement is for a sidewalk to be in that location.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Anything else on 13? Item 14. Item 15. Bob, if it's okay, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Awesome. I think that is it for item A. We'll move on to item B, overview of 2015 bond program and the 2022-2023 blue ribbon process. Mr. David Erb and the staff.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Council, let me get this started here. Well, good evening. I'm here to provide a presentation on the overview of the 2015 bond election and where we're at in that process, and then we're going to be kicking off our 2023 bond election blue ribbon process. Just some items that we're going to be covering today in the presentation. We're going to go over again the status of the 2015 bond program. I'm going to give some specifics about where we're at with that. The last update that we provided to council was in 2021 at the council retreat. We'll go on to just discussion of the different aspects of the upcoming bond election, which would be for 2023 November. And then there'll be some decision points that council will give staff direction on. So some of you might remember this. You were here probably at the time when it was created. Some are new. I know there's a lot of staff here that are new, so I think it'll just be good information for everybody. The 2015 bond election was intended to be a 10-year program with bond issues each year from 2016 to 2025. There were 4 propositions that were brought to our voters at the November 2015 election. We asked them questions regarding supporting funding for streets, public safety, facilities, parks, and aquatics. The total bond election amount was $135 million. That was broken out. Streets were about $71 million. Public safety facilities were 11, and parks and aquatics were $53 million. That included about $40 million for Thrive. At the time, it was projected or discussed that there could possibly be a 2-cent increase in the INS tax rate to support that, those additional bonds that were going to be issued, if needed. In the end, there was actually only an increase of 1/2 cent to the INS rate, but there was also a corresponding decrease or lowering of the M&O rate by an equal amount. So net, there was no net change in the overall rate that was levied to the property owners. Why will we be able to go from 10 years to 8 years, which is now we're anticipating completing that by 2023. We had assessed value growth that was faster than anticipated. When we did these projections at the beginning, we used Hilltop Securities, our financial advisor, to help us do some projections. All the projections that were used were very conservative, as we are in just about everything that we do. So we had actual growth in the assessed value of about 7% over the last 7 years on average, where we anticipated only 3 in the projections. So we were able to absorb more debt sooner while maintaining that existing INS rate. In addition, interest rates were lower, actually experienced than what we anticipated. Where we anticipated rates coming in at about 4 to 5%, they actually became in between 2 and 3%. And in fact, just before the last year or so with the increases, we actually saw rates at about 1.5% for a 16-year bond, which is pretty amazing. We also have city staff up in the engineering department that was able to absorb some additional work and move some of those projects forward a little bit quicker so we could issue the debt and then start those projects rolling. And then there was also some projects that we had to push out into the next bond election because of inflation. So while we were able to do more projects sooner, they cost a little bit more, so that left some projects that were anticipated to be funded with the 2015 bond election to now be pushed over to the 2023 election. And you'll see there's some projects that are going to be funded with the last issue from the 15 election that is just for the design portion, so then the actual construction will be funded in the 2023 bond election. This is just a table of the issues beginning in 2015 through present. We've got $16.9 million left to be issued next year. You can see the issues and the amounts broken down by proposition. We've got some bonds for streets and for parks, for trail development next year. Again, $16.9 million. That'll complete our authority, so that's why we're having to move forward with this election next year. For this issue, we anticipate going to the market April or May of next year. So these are a list of the projects that have been funded to date. They're at various stages of completion, from completion to a work in progress. We've got some that are design complete that are waiting on right-of-way, and some other coordination with outside agencies, to projects that haven't been started yet. And these are ones that are more recently funded in the last year with the bond sale, so they haven't been in the queue yet to get started, so that's not a surprise. And again, some of these others that are not completed or in the design, there's requirement of some coordination with third parties or outside agencies that we have to work with to make them move forward. But good progress so far. If there's any questions about the status of these projects, David Solomon's here to answer any questions.
What is a FLAP grant?
Federal Lands Access, it's Federal Lands Access Program. It was specifically selected by the Federal Highway Administration because of its access to Leela.
I'll just make one comment that was from a resident, was about the Old Town streets, that, you know, they kind of feel forgotten, but, you know, I'm going to make sure I copy this and show them they're not forgotten, but, you know, things kind of got backed up as prices start going up, but we haven't forgotten about them. I just want them to know they're on the list to get done, so.
Yes. Okay, the other two propositions in the bond election for 2015 related to parks and aquatics and public safety. Again, we've got different stages of completion for some of those projects. As you know, Thrive is completed. We have a couple of projects that have been a work in progress, and there's some monies that we received from bond proceeds last year that are part of the Lake Park master plan, the day use in the campground pavilion. And Stacy, she can speak to that if you have any questions. And then lastly, the public safety portion, we did a renovation of the Fire Station 3, we completed that work. And then we had funds in the bond proceeds from 2015 election for the public facility addition, but there's been a change. Obviously, you know, we're moving those funds to the public safety complex, and they're going to be used to support the costs related to that. Projects we funded from the last issue that we're going to do next spring. We've got some design work for Valley Ridge East and Middle Glen subdivision. And again, those are only the design portions. The construction cost portion is going to be included as a priority project for the 2023 bonds election. And then we also have some final trail design and development monies available for parks. So the 2023 bond election is going to look very similar to what we've done in the past. The request is going to be for council to put together and make appointments for a Blue Ribbon Capital Advisory Committee. Typically has 9 members, and we would anticipate having 9 members again. It's made up of members of different boards and commissions that are currently serving. Park Board, some of the staff has already made recommendations that we'll take to council for consideration. Something new for this year would be taking former members from the Castle Hills Annexation Education Committee, have them provide some input into the process.
Can I add one thing there? So that's completely going to be within the purview of council, who you guys want to put on this. Obviously, this is an incredibly important board that can decide things for they're advisory to council, but you know, you want to put people that are big hitters that understand Lewisville, that are very connected and understand kind of where we've been, where we want to go. just remember that in our last bond election, our 2025 committee was synonymous with our Blue Ribbon Committee. So you could decide you wanted to do that, you want to do that as well. But I do think that there, especially with, with Park Board, P&Z, having that variety is also really beneficial for, and even members that are not even on boards. I think there's some, you could consider, I'm just throwing out some names. I mean, I haven't talked to him, but like former council members that might be interested in, serving, or you might have people that were on your charter review commission that we would want to have serve as well. So staff's plan is to submit a memo to you guys that just says, these are people that you might want to consider, but it's totally open for you guys.
So the Blue Ribbon Committee was there before, the 2015 Blue Ribbon Committee was before the 2025 committee was created. So the Blue Ribbon kind of turned into that. So there were, at the time, when we first
that was the
converted over, there were members from Planning and Zoning and Park Board. I don't know what the makeup of the current 2025, whenever y'all put that list together, can you tell us?
Sure, we can break down what 2025 was. Some will just be members of 2025 and not other boards.
Okay.
So, and some of those members on the 2025 committee may not be as seasoned as some other people that may not be serving on 2025 board. But I think that'll be up to you guys what you want.
I would just kind of like to see what the current makeup of the 2025 committee is, because it was a pretty good mix of all the different committees, but that was a long time ago, and a lot of people have. Well, we're sitting here now. So.
Right, exactly. Okay, thanks, Dave.
Okay. Again, the committee is responsible for prioritizing the staff capital project requests. Staff is currently pulling those together now, and then we'll vet them through the city manager's office, and then we'll bring together the list of projects to the committee, and then there's a series of meetings over 4 or 5 months where they'll prioritize, and a number of things will happen along the way before we make a final recommendation, or the Blue Ribbon Committee makes a final recommendation to council. And again, we're going to ask them to keep in mind the 2025 update, similar to how we handle all of our allocations of budget for operating. We'll also do the same thing on the capital side to make sure that we're addressing those needs with these capital projects. And then again, along the way, we're going to determine what the impact is of all the capital projects on our size of the bond election, and ultimately how that's going to impact our INS rate. And right now, the bogey is to maintain the current INS tax rate and support whatever projects that can be supported through that existing rate, which is 12.23 cents.
Again, that's something eventually you guys could change your mind. If you, like we did with Thrive, the idea was you could end up having to increase your INS rate to support it. If you guys were to end up seeing that there are so many projects, there's so much need that you want to leverage a higher INS tax rate. That's not, I think our goal as staff is to try to keep it the same, but in looking at those projects, if you were impassioned to do more, we can do more. As long as we're financially, our financial advisors are telling us we can do it.
So here's the timeline between now and the next November's election, where we're at. We've got the departments that are currently working on their 10-year capital plans. Today's our presentation to the council.
David, if we could just blow past this slide, we're running on the time frame there.
All right. We will supplement the bond proceeds with other sources to help stretch those project dollars. We've got money that's available in the general fund, 4B funds, drainage funds, utility funds. Those are specific for portions of the project. So we can only use drainage funds for the drainage-related projects, the streets and so on. We also are going to tap into any grants that are available to support those projects. So here we go. This is the decision points. If we're good with the timeline moving forward to the November 23 election, and then also for selecting the Blue Ribbon Advisory Committee, we anticipate making recommendations, and then you guys would make a decision on November 21st.
So would love to get council's input if you have individuals that you think we should consider We've got a few weeks to get that together, but if you can get those names into Claire for review, that would be awesome, before November 21st, because, I mean, it's a heavy lift, so these folks have to figure out how to get it in their calendar too, so it's not an
Dave, can you explain the time commitment it would be for the Blue Ribbon Committee members? What is that time commitment?
So we'll have 14 meetings. 13 will be sit down, go through the projects, and then one meeting will be a bus tour that goes around. We'll start scheduling them first week of December and probably 2 or 3 a month through April, and then that timeline just shows the different deliverables at different points. And all that information is in a separate attachment in the agenda.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the challenge is making it too big. I mean, 9 seems to have worked for us historically. If we need to add 1 or 2 more, keep it an odd number just for, there needs to be consensus building. But that seems to be historically a number that's worked well. It gets too big and it becomes kind of unwieldy.
I'm just curious if maybe we need to add a couple more because we did just annex a small city. So, you know, I would prefer that we have all the perspectives we need versus, you know, having to, you know, now we have Castle Hills that we need to take into the mix. And so, you know, we've got more input that we need. So
I'm not against adding one, making it 11.
Yeah, I would say that probably odd would be better. My preference is smaller, but if you cannot achieve the balance that you want, then 11 is fine. We will do whatever.
If we can't narrow it down to 9,
Yeah. So we got to look at the head count that comes in, right? So, okay. Any other questions? Mr. Herb, thank you so much. I appreciate you. All right, we have nothing more on the workshop agenda, so we will adjourn the workshop. We will start back up in a regular session in about 3 minutes. It is Monday, October 17th at 7 p.m. I'm calling this regular session of the Lewisville City Council to order. We could please rise, and Mayor Pro Tem Jones, would you mind leading us in the invocation?
Please rise for a moment of silent prayer and contemplation. Thank you.
Councilmember Meredith?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, we do have a presentation before our proclamations tonight. And if I could have our ISO Texas Regional Manager, Mr. Skip Gibson, and Texas State Fire Marshal PPC Oversight Officer, Mr. Joel Duke, to present plaques to the City of Lewisville for earning our Class 1 ISO. Thank you for being here, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great thing also is you guys headquarters, senior fuel reference access to
What? Super. Thank you, Jeff.
I think it was supposed to go on the screen. I think.
Give us a second. We'll see if our IT team will get that presentation up.
There we go.
There we go. Good deal.
Well, it's our honor to be here tonight to present the Class 1 to Lewisville, the City of Lewisville. The ISO classifications are utilized in the entire country. There's about 45,000 fire protection districts across the country, and generally overall fire, we rate overall fire prevention capabilities, and better protection equates to the insurance industry less loss. A community needs to score above 90 points to be a Class 1. Within the fire suppression rating schedule that we utilize, there's actually 105.5 points available. It's all based on national standards as well, the National Fire Protection Association for the fire side, American Water Works and for water, and APCO as far as the emergency communications. You can see the classes run from 1 to 10, kind of like a golf score, but not mine, 1 being the best and 10 being no fire protection or no fire protection within the vicinity of the property. Throughout the country, you can see there that with the 45,000 fire protection districts across the country, there's only just a little shy of 500 Class 1s in the entire country, so right about 1% or so. You can see the middle part there, the 4, 5, and 6s. It shows the validity of the schedule, and the schedule is based on actuarial data that insurance underwriters utilize. You can see that most of the country is in that middle part, a little bit more on the Class 9 because that's areas that have a fire department but don't have any fire hydrants. Within Texas, most states pretty much are a mirror image of the countrywide. In Texas, we have a very leans more to the lower classes, and we don't have as much of that bubble in the 4, 5, and 6s. It's still kind of there, but within Texas, we have about 2,950 fire protection districts across the state, and there's less than 100, so just about 90 Class 1s. So not only are you in the elite class countrywide, but also within Texas, which is, has a high degree compared to other states of fire protection. So to be at the top is just an excellent accomplishment. The schedule and the rating is based on what is in the overall community. We look at the needed fire flows in the community, what your target hazards are. Then basically the schedule is based on a first alarm response to a structure fire. What happens when 911 is dialed? How fast do they get the fire department on the way? Then what kind of fire department you have? Where are the stations? What personnel are there? What kind of training? Then when they get to the fire, they have to have some water to be able to fight the fire. How's your water distribution system? And then at the end, we add in community risk reduction too. What's your fire prevention efforts? On the emergency communication side, we look at not just that you have the equipment, the comm center, the CAD systems, and the phone lines to be able to handle that, but what's really important is how the performance is. How fast is that call being answered? How fast is the fire department being dispatched? How those folks that do that are trained and certified for those positions. So within that, within the 100 points, there's actually 10 points on the communication side. In this case, you had excellent, 10 points out of 10. The city had aced that part completely. And to be a Class 1 city or community, you really have to do well in all the major categories. So we can see there the communications was terrific. On the fire side, it's important to have those big red fire trucks. It's important to have fire stations where they are, but what's really important is the chief and his folks, how they perform, how fast they can get to a fire, how well the folks are trained, continue their certifications, their continuing education is really important. So on that is the biggest majority of the schedule. There's 50 points there, and darn near 40 points were scored in the fire side. And you see all the big categories as far as your deployment analysis, your personnel, and I have to just shout out to training there too. 9 points out of 9 is terrific. And you got to keep in mind, as we utilize the national standards and the schedule itself, these are high benchmarks. And as you can see across the distribution, it's not, everybody can't be a 3 or a 2 or anything, and be a 1 is really a tremendous accomplishment. On the water side, that's 40 points, and darn near aced that too. That was just a little shy of 40 points. Excellent, same thing. It's not just important that you have the hydrants and the water capabilities, but it's also important that those hydrants are tested, flow tested, and records are maintained for that. On the community risk reduction side, it's important to have a fire prevention code, doing the enforcement on that, have a good public fire safety education program, and also investigate fires for the origin and cause of fires. That is 5.5 points, darn near pretty close on that one too, 5.36, so another excellent job. When you put those all together, it's a little tough to see, but over the 90 points, you have 90.23 or whatever it is there, and just an excellent score all across the board. And I'm sorry, let me go back there. We also have some additional, as you can see, the score is figured out. We take a divergence factor, difference between the fire and the water, the 50% and the 40, and then we add in the community risk reduction. So again, I know fire marshals always like to say they put the community or the city into the class 1 because it's on the last category there. So you might hear that, Chief. And then we've given this to the chief and his folks that we have a website just for the fire departments and the city to be able to look at their scores, and we have benchmarks where you fall as far as statewide, nationally, and amongst a peer group of similar-sized city and similar-sized fire departments. And it's kind of hard to see there, I know, but I'm sure the chief will share it at a later date. But you can see how you've exceeded all those benchmarks, both statewide, nationally, and amongst your peer group. So again, it's our honor here to be award the city of Lewisville with their Class 1. It's always an honor to be able to do this, and congratulations. I'm just going to pass off to Joel.
Thanks. Thank you, Skip. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joel Duke. I'm the Public Protection Classification Oversight Officer with the Texas State Fire Marshal's Office, a division of the Texas Department of Insurance. I'm here tonight to present you, along with ISO your Class 1 plaque. First off, a giant congratulations to Mayor Gilmore, the City Council, Fire Chief, the Fire Department, the Water Department, and everyone else involved in achieving a Class 1. We are well aware of the time and effort it takes to achieve this goal, and we recognize and commend you on all of your hard work. At the Texas State Fire Marshal's Office, our mission statement is to reduce the loss of life and property through prevention, education, and protection. We'd like to give a giant thank you for helping us ensure this goal by protecting the citizens of Lewisville. On behalf of the Texas State Fire Marshal, Chief Orlando Hernandez, and the Commissioner of the Texas Department of Insurance, Commissioner Cassie Brown, I would also like to present you with a Class 1 plaque and a congratulations.
Your turn, Chief.
Well, I will say just a few words. I couldn't be more proud of the men and women of the fire department. Like I say, there's a lot to this study, and I'm proud of them for the work they do. But this is truly, we're looking at the people, the council and our city management that supports and provides what we need to meet the standards. And this was, as they told at the beginning, this was a team effort. So fire department gets a lot of the scrutiny, but so does dispatch. So Chief Deaver and his crew, the water department is a huge part. And so Kelly Rouse, I spent a lot of time with him, emailing back and forth. And then our IT department, Tar Rig, helped us a ton creating maps to be able to tell our story and show that what we have in place to meet these standards. So it was a team effort and a lot of work. Jeff Edwards came down and spent last December, and excellent to work with, very knowledgeable in all areas of that, so was able to make sure that we got the points that Lewisville has earned and was able to meet that. So it's been a good process, and we thank you for your support.
Council, any comments?
Congratulations, great work.
Skip, you get a picture? I like you guys, but I love you. What a photogenic. It's great to be recognized, but I will tell you the work is always on staff, and we really appreciate all that everybody has to do to get this. I know our residents will be pleased to be able to go talk to their insurance companies and have their insurance companies go, well, we'll keep it flat for you, but maybe you can get a little bit off on the insurance on that. But it's important that we, you know, number one thing we are tasked with is safety of this community. And so I thank you all for stepping up and taking that next step. It's great. With that, I think I have some Rotarians that need to come on up here. I see a few of my fellow Rotarians out there. If I got to read all this, you all got to stand up here for it. Bob, you got a second? Come on down here. Awesome. All right. Well, we have some outstanding folks that give back to the community every day through their work within the Rotary organization, and of course other groups and associations that all of these fine gentlemen are with. I see them regularly. Tonight I have the honor to talk about polio and the Rotary's campaign to end polio now, which happens this time of year every year. So I appreciate Bob for keeping us all on our toes for this one. So I have a proclamation here to read. Whereas polio is a crippling and potentially fatal disease that still threatens children in parts of Asia, parenthetical, it's in New York right now. So let's not think that this is something that's just overseas. And whereas it is critical that individuals be vaccinated against polio in order to avoid infection by the polio virus, and whereas the incidence of polio has declined throughout most of the world due to various education and immunization programs worldwide, and whereas Rotary International and individual Rotarians have contributed over $1 billion and spearheaded collaborations with donor governments, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the Centers for Disease Control, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, leading to a significant reduction of the incidence of polio worldwide by over 99% since 1985. And whereas Rotarians from the Lewisville Morning Rotary Club and the Lewisville Rotary Club Noon have generously joined in these efforts through monetary contributions and participation in overseas immunization initiatives since the campaign to eradicate polio was launched in 1985. And whereas Lewisville Morning Rotary Club and Lewisville Rotary Club Noon members, along with fellow Rotarians worldwide, are joining together to match a $50 million per year challenge grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and are sponsoring local activities during the week of October 18th through the 24th, 2022, to educate the general public about polio and to raise funds for its eradication. And now, therefore, I, T.J. Gilmore, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, Texas, and on behalf of the Lewisville City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of October 18th through 24th, 2022 as End Polio Now Week, and October 24th, 2022 as End Polio Now Day, and call upon the people of Lewisville to join the two Lewisville Rotary Clubs and their fellow citizens in taking part of this special observance. Proclaim the 17th day of October 2022. Anybody have anything to add to that? We whereas the snot out of it. So I want to thank the Rotary Clubs. They have a long history here in Lewisville of giving back to the community. As you can see, of course, polio since 1985. But if you are so inclined to donate or be involved in Rotary or find ways to help out with this initiative, these guys are here and they can absolutely speak to it, or you can reach out to your Rotary Club and come by for a lunch. There's always a free lunch available. We love having guests and visitors to our, or breakfast. Or breakfast. We can do that one too. Yeah. So, guys, I got one for one club, I got one for the other, and let's give these gentlemen a hand. Well done, unless you got something to say. Thank you. It's all yours if you want. All right, good deal. Thank you, guys. Did we get a picture? Do we need one? Need a picture. Mr. Kunke, would you mind? Where'd we lose? Ehud's got a camera going. Here we go. Here, we'll slide this way. Thanks, Chief. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Hang on one second.
Well, one more.
Sorry.
Got to take one for our club.
Not quick enough. All right. Thank you
very much. Appreciate it.
And just so you all know, we don't have just gentlemen on Rotary clubs. There's a lot of great ladies that are in the clubs as well. All right. Next up, public hearing, item E. Consideration of an ordinance granting a zone change from Plan Development Mixed Use District PD-MU to Plan Development Mixed Use District PD-MU with an amended concept plan and 4 associated alternative standards. On an approximately 35.77 acre tract of land out of the PK Wagoner Survey, abstract number 1342, located at the northern terminus of Summit Avenue on the west side of Interstate Highway 35E and the east side of McGee Lane, as requested by Randy Rivera McAdams on behalf of Merdad Moyetti, MM Frontera LLC, the property owner, case number 21-09-4-PZ. A plan development for this site, known as Frontera, was approved by the City Council on April 19, 2021. This plan development was revised and renamed Lakeside Crossing on December 20, 2021. The proposed modifications to the concept plan include the relocation of the private dog park and an adjustment to the setbacks for the townhomes along the east side of McGee Lane to address a recently discovered surveying error. All other elements of the plan development will remain the same as was previously approved and will include 201 townhomes, 759 multifamily units, 5,000 square feet of live-work units, 30,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space along Interstate Highway 35E, over 5 acres of open space and trails throughout the development connecting the various components. The following 4 alternative standards are requested. A, to allow a setback of 12.5 feet on the townhome streets and a 14.5 foot setback on Moccasin Trail and Summit Avenue in lieu of the required 0 to 10 foot build to zone. A 14.5 to 35 foot build to zone along Moccasin Trail for the mixed use and multifamily buildings in lieu of the required 0 to 10 foot build to zone, and a build out frontage of 70% in lieu of the required 80% for the mixed use and multifamily buildings. B, to allow reduction of the landscape buffer along Interstate Highway 35E to 15 feet in lieu of the required 20 feet. C, to allow an increase in the maximum block length to 1,000 feet in lieu of the required 600-foot maximum, and to allow an increase in the maximum block perimeter to 3,000 feet in lieu of the required 1,600 feet maximum. And D, to allow reduction to 60 and 70% stone or brick for certain buildings provided 3/4 cement-based stucco is used for the remaining 30 or 35% in lieu of the required 80% stone or brick. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 6-0 of the zone change, and the Overlay District Board recommended unanimous approval 6-0 of the 4 alternative standards and approved these alternative standards at a joint meeting on October 4th, 2022. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance and 4 associated alternative standards as set forth in the caption above. And of course, we do have Mr. Richard Lutke available, our Planning Director.
I have a question for you, Richard. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for putting the exhibit with this development and the Gas Monkey next to it together. I really, really appreciate that. I was unable to open it on my iPad for some reason, so I'm just getting a look at it. I can't see the name of the street that goes between the townhomes and the multifamily, runs north and south. But are there, regarding the block lengths, I realize that's probably going to be our longest block. Is that I can't zoom in here, but are those mid-block pedestrian crossings there on that street?
I believe the variance or alternative standard C addresses that. We've kind of analyzed each one of the blocks, and the ones that do have pass-throughs do meet the standard, and the ones that didn't, this alternative standard will address that.
Okay. I don't have an issue with the longer block lengths as long as we can have the pedestrian cut-throughs. And it looks like that's what I'm seeing here.
That is correct. The engineering site plan will show a lot more detail than the concept.
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Council, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second. I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 5 with 1 absent. I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance and the 4 associated alternative standards.
Move to approve the ordinance and the 4 associated alternative standards as set forth in the caption.
Second.
City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning an approximately 35.77 acre tract of land out of the P.K. Wagner Survey, abstract number 1342, located at the northern terminus of Summit Avenue on the west side of Interstate Highway 35E, North Simmons Freeway, and the east side of McGee Lane, from planned development mixed-use district zoning to planned development mixed-use district zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the public interest and general welfare demand this zoning change and amendment therein made, providing for repeal or severability, a penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Item passes 5-0. I do want to recognize Mr. Derek Goodman. He's the developer representative. He's here this evening. We did not need you for any questions, so I appreciate you letting me know that you were only there if needed. So thank you, sir. Public hearing number 2, consideration of an ordinance granting a special use permit for a storage yard and a contractor's yard with 3 associated variances on approximately 35.65 acres, legally described as lots 13, 14, 15R, and 17, Block A, ARTX Park Addition, located at 1227, 1229, and 1237 South Railroad Street, zoned warehouse and heavy industrial district, as requested by Josh Barton McAdams on behalf of Great Northern Investments LLC and ARTX Corporation, the property owners. Case number 2022-05-5-SUP. Capform is a concrete contractor that specializes in concrete formworks. The business has operated in Lewisville for many years and has experienced rapid growth over the past 10 years. The site was expanded to accommodate the growth, and a special use permit was required for the expansion. An SUP was approved by the City Council on January 27, 2020. Shortly thereafter, the pandemic impacted the business, and the staff person at Capform who led the SUP process retired. As a result, the SUP site improvements were not made, and the SUP has since expired. Capform is now reapplying for the SUP for the expansion and will make the required improvements, which include the installation of a deceleration lane, paving of parking areas, increased landscaping, and additional screening. The following 3 variances are requested. A, to allow the existing chain link fence and vegetative screen to remain in lieu of required screening fence. B, to allow a deceleration lane 188 feet in length in lieu of the required deceleration lane of 210 feet. And C, to allow a reduced landscape buffer of approximately 12 feet adjacent to the new deceleration lane in lieu of the required 30-foot landscape buffer. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 6-0 on September 20th, 2022, and it is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance and 3 associated variances as set forth in the caption. We do have Mr. Lutke available for questions. If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes. Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance and the associated alternative standards.
Move to approve the ordinance and 3 associated variances as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by granting a special use permit for a storage yard and contractor's yard on approximately 35.653 acres legally described as lots 13, 14, 15R, and 17, Block A, ARTX Park Edition, located at 1227, 1229, and 1237 South Railroad Street, and Zone Warehouse District and Heavy Industrial District, providing for repeal or severability, penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Item passes 5-0. All right, next up, we have the consent agenda. I'm sorry, we're going to go back a step. Visitor Citizen Forum. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than to individual council members or staff. Speakers should speak clearly and state their name and address prior to beginning their remarks. Speakers will be allowed 5 minutes for testimony. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, including stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. I do have one speaker card. City Secretary, do we have any others?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, and I have, and I'm sorry, I'm not quite able to read this handwriting, so that's my apologies. Anlon Plaid.
Mayor Gilmore, my name is Aaron Platt.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. I'm sorry about that. And if you could state your address for the record.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Aaron Platt. I live at 391 East Main Street here in Lewisville. And I'd like to take you back to Thursday. I was here walking downtown with my son. And just for context here, I'm a new resident of Lewisville. I moved here in January, and I've lived all over the world, as well as major cities, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Beijing, China, Tulum, Mexico, just to name a few places. And Lewisville is my favorite place that I've ever lived.
You've started off right.
Well, I can't tell you how much I love what you're doing here, and I can see the overall direction that you have with the community. The downtown area is pristine. The plaza, it is one of my favorite places, to walk, to spend time with my family. I'm here with my fiance tonight. And so to take you back to Thursday, I was walking on a Thursday morning with my 1.5-year-old son. We take walks all the time in this beautiful area. And we were nearly run over at a stoplight here. And one of the things that I do with my son every time that we take a walk is I always take him to the pedestrian, push-to-walk buttons. And I always try to train him that you need to wait until you see the little walk sign before walking. It's just a point, that I make with him. And every time he sees the buttons, he goes up to push it. And these walks have become one of my favorite things with him. However, this is the third time in the span of 1 week where we've crossed an intersection with a walk sign and have nearly been run over by a car. In this case, on Thursday morning, it was actually by one of the people who work in this building. And as she turned, I noticed where she parked. We decided to walk around City Hall, I really wanted to think about what how to speak to her if I had the opportunity to, have a conversation. And so I walked up to the building and noticed where she had parked and noticed that she was working at her desk and kind of did a little tap on the glass, and I just said, can we have a conversation? And I made it a point to stay calm. And she actually stopped to thank me for my attitude. She said, thank you for being cool. And I said, I don't know what you're going through, so I can't really judge you for it. I said, as a father, I'm furious. As a human being, I understand that we all make mistakes. And in the case of something like this, I think this is an issue of public safety. I think that this is not the first incident that I've experienced where, despite being at a crosswalk or, in a place where we should be safe, where we've, nearly gotten run over. Living at 391 East Main Street, every single day I see people going the wrong way. I work from home. I work on the first floor of my, the townhomes. I live in the multicolored townhomes, if y'all are familiar, and swing by anytime if you want some free water, because I keep it on my porch. But this has become more of a pressing concern for me, because to come full circle, I see what you're doing with the community. I see that there's going to be an increased number of residents and people living here, And I love the idea of downtown Lewisville being a walkable destination for people. And I'm well aware that there will be an increase in traffic with more people living here. And in the interest of sustainability and priding yourself as having safety be the #1 concern, I think that it is well worth considering putting up stop signs at the very least at regular intervals on Main Street, just to stop or disrupt the flow of people speeding. Every single day, it seems, from between Main Street, where Sparrow Collective is, to where I live on 391, that a lot of drivers seem to treat it as more of a drag strip than a common road. I know that we have signs for 35 miles an hour, but I'm here to firsthand tell you that drivers aren't following the speed limit. They're routinely going the wrong way on Main Street. And as a parent, as a active member of your community, I'd like to bring this to your attention and hope that we can find some sort of measures to increase the safety of our community. And I'll be a regular attendee here until we have a satisfactory response. So on behalf of me and my son, Atlas, as well as all the other parents and children here who have expressed concern, please, Mayor, at the very least, install stop signs or something to make me and my child feel safe.
Appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much.
Of course.
All right. City Manager, we'll have some staff reach out. Okay. I do not have anyone else for Visitor Citizen Forum. We will move on to the consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so request. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card or e-comment must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. We will be pulling item number 5 off of consent. So, City Secretary, do we have any other requests for?
No, sir, we do not.
Thank you very much. Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent minus item 5.
Move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item number 5.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 5, ratification of a contract award to Arch Insurance Company for excess workers' compensation insurance in the amount of $199,981 for a 1-year period, and authorization of the city manager or her designee to execute all necessary documents. City Manager, I think you have some details that we kind of have to go through on this one.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so we requested that this be pulled off the consent agenda because we wanted to make sure that the motion had additional clarification. So just for the record, the clarification needed is that although we are awarding the contract to Arch Insurance Company, the actual payment will be paid through our broker of record. That's one of the requirements under Texas law. And so the motion we are requesting that you use will have that clarification that the annual premium will be paid to Roach Howard, the city's broker of record, and they will then bind coverage with Arch Insurance Company on the city's behalf.
Council, any questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to ratify the contract award for excess workers' compensation insurance to Arch Insurance Company as set forth in the caption above, and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute all necessary documents and pay the annual premium to Roach, Howard, Barton, and Smith, the city's broker of record, for them to bind coverage and pay said premium to Arch Insurance Company on the city's behalf.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11, regular hearing. Consideration of an ordinance amending eligible cost categories of reinvestment zone number 2, City of Lewisville, Texas, reallocating the budget associated with previous eligible costs to new eligible cost categories, allowing the city to determine the percentage of increment dedicated to a developer on an annual basis, approving the amended and restated final project and finance plan to reflect these changes, containing findings and provisions related to the foregoing subject, providing for severability and an effective date, and declaring an emergency. On December 20th, 2021, Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 2, Board of Directors reviewed the amended and restated project and finance plan. and recommended approval to the City Council. The amended and restated plan amends eligible cost categories to reflect improvements that were subsequently completed by the Riverside DPH LP and the City, and includes adding costs of repairing and stabilizing or reconstructing the weirs. 2, reallocates the budget associated with previous eligible cost to new eligible cost categories without increasing or decreasing total cost. And 3, provides the City greater flexibility in determining annual dedication of funds to developers. On August 29th, 2022, the TERS number 2 Board of Directors recommended minor modifications to the amended and restated plan to reflect actuals provided by the developer. It's recommended that the City Council approve the ordinances set forth in the caption above. And Council, do we have any questions? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance amending eligible cost categories of reinvestment zone number 2, City of Lewisville, Texas, reallocating the budget associated with previous eligible costs to new eligible cost categories, allowing the city to determine the percentage of increment dedicated to a developer on an annual basis, approving the amended and restated final project and finance plan to reflect these changes, containing findings and provisions related to the foregoing subject, providing for severability and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item 12, consideration of the First Amendment to the Economic Development Agreement between Riverside DPH LP and the City of Lewisville, and authorization for the City Manager or her designee to execute the First Amendment. On October 5th, 2009, the City and Riverside DPH LP entered into a development agreement to provide for infrastructure costs to facilitate the development of Hebron 121 Station near the DCTA Hebron Station. Amendments to the development agreement are necessary to comply with the amended and restated project and finance plan. The proposed changes: 1, amend eligible cost categories to reflect improvements that were subsequently completed by the developer and the city, and includes adding the cost of repairing and stabilizing or reconstructing the weirs. And 2, reallocate the budget associated with previous eligible costs to new eligible cost categories without increasing or decreasing the total cost. And 3, provide the city greater flexibility in determining annual dedication of funds to developers. It is recommended the Council approve the First Amendment to the Economic Development Agreement and authorize the City Manager or her designee to execute the First Amendment as set forth in the caption above. Council, are there any questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the First Amendment to the Economic Development Agreement and authorize the City Manager or her designee to execute the First Amendment as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 13, considerance of a variance to the Castle Hills Plan Development Crown Center Development Regulations to allow a private vehicular route alternative street section for a proposed multifamily development at the southeast corner of State Highway 121 Business and FM 544, also known as Parker Road, as requested by Trinsic Acquisition Company, LLC, the developer. On February 17, 2020, the City Council approved 11 variance requests coupled with conditions and the detailed development standards for Crown Center at Castle Hills, a pedestrian-oriented mixed-use development on approximately 140 acres at the southwest corner of State Highway 121 Business and the State Highway 121 Frontage Road, Sam Rayburn Tollway. These standards were adopted into the plan development for Castle Hills on January 3, 2022. The applicant is requesting approval of an alternative street section as shown in the attached variance exhibit for the private vehicular route on the north and west sides of the proposed multifamily development. It is recommended that the City Council approve the variances set forth in the captions. Mr. Ludke, of course, our planning director, is here for questions. If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the variances as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 14, consideration of an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending Chapter 13, Article 3 of the Lewisville City Code by deleting sections 13 through 62 through 13, deleting sections 13-62 through 13-64 and inserting new text regarding the city's management of trees, plants, and shrubs on city-managed property, providing a repealer, severability, penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency. Partnering with local groups such as Keep Lewisville Beautiful and the Friends of Leela, the City of Lewisville has been recognized by the Arbor Day Foundation as a Tree City USA for 28 consecutive years. In 2022, the foundation increased its scrutiny of municipal tree ordinances, requiring delegation of authority over public trees, as well as providing clear guidance for planting, maintaining, and/or removing public trees. The proposed updates to Chapter 13 will help continue Lewisville's legacy as a Tree City USA, but also ensure management of the public tree canopy is codified. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above, and we do have Ms. Stacy Anaya, Director of Parks and Recreation, here for any questions. Council, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending Chapter 13, Article 3 of the Lewisville City Code by deleting sections 13-61 through 13-64 and inserting new text regarding the city's management of trees, plants, and shrubs on city-managed property, providing a repealer severability penalty and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 15, consideration of 3 variances to the Lewisville City Code, Section 6-123 and Section 6-92, regarding landscape strips, driveway width, and driveway spacing for the Lewisville Public Safety Campus located on the north side of West Main Street between Civic Circle and North Valley Parkway at 1197 West Main Street, 1101 West Main Street, 184 North Valley Parkway, 188 North Valley Parkway, and 191 Civic Circle Drive, as requested by the City of Lewisville, the property owner. The engineering site plan for the Lewisville Public Safety Center is currently under review by city staff. The following 3 variances are requested. A, to allow a landscape strip varying from 4 feet to 15 feet in lieu of the required 10-foot to 30-foot strip. B, to allow an increased driveway width of 92 feet in lieu of the maximum of 35 feet. And C, to allow a reduced driveway spacing of 36 feet in lieu of the required driveway spacing of 100 feet along Valley Parkway. It's recommended the council approve the 3 variances as set forth in the caption. We do have Mr. Eric Ferris, our Assistant City Manager, and Ms. Michelle Berry, our Planning Manager, available for questions. Council, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the 3 variances as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you'd please vote. Motion is approved unanimously. Item I, reports. These are reports about items of community interest regarding which no action will be taken. And Councilmember Troyer, would you mind kicking us off tonight?
I will do that. Thank you. I have a number of items to present that are going on at the Lewisville Grand Theater. First of all, my French is not very good, but I will try. Le Ballet du Dracula, presented by Lake City's Ballet, October 21st and 22nd, with 2 performances on the 22nd. Rocky Horror Picture Show film screening, presented by the City of Lewisville on October 28th. I think that's at 8 o'clock, maybe? Anyway. Reception and performance, Dia de los Muertos, and The World as I See It, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville on October 29th. Mary Poppins, presented by Christine Youth Theater of DFW, November 4th through the 6th, and 11th through the 13th. And as always, acoustic jam sessions every Friday night, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville. Some activities: garden secrets class, welcoming pollinators in your landscapes, presented by Keep Lewisville Beautiful on October 20th. Lewisville Talks, John Bramblett, presented by the City of Lewisville on October 20th. Multisensory workshop with John Bramblett, presented by the City of Lewisville on October 22nd. Free musical theater workshop for adults, presented by our Productions Theater Company and the Young Artist Training Program on October 22nd. The Development Code Overhaul Open House, presented by the City of Lewisville, October 25th. art pop-ups in the plaza presented by the City of Lewisville every Saturday. Yoga in the Plaza presented by Blue Anjou Studios on Wednesdays. Pilates in the Plaza presented by Pilates in the City Thursdays. And Tai Chi in the Plaza presented by Lowell Johnson on Saturdays. And then there are a number of exhibitions going on in the theater. Mystery Metals, Art and Photography by Tina Alvarez, presented by the City of Lewisville on October 29th. Bramlett from the Beginning, presented by the City of Lewisville through October 22nd. Limited Palette, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville through October 22nd. The World as I See It, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville, October 29th through November 26th. And finally, Dia de los Muertos, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville, October 29th through November 26th. And that is what I have.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney? City Secretary? Thank you, Officer. Appreciate you being here tonight. Can we get a little softball work this next year? Can we train for that? I know it was tough this weekend.
Nothing, Mayor.
All right.
Nothing, Mayor.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, park fans, just want to let everybody know that on October 29th, from 3 to 6 p.m., we'll be hosting the Spokes and Ghost Bike Ride. We'll be leaving from Railroad Park and heading out on northwest on the new portion of the DCTA A-Train Rail Trail that we've just completed recently along Valley Ridge Parkway. So you can register online through the activities calendar now through Friday, October 28th, or you can register on site up till 3 p.m. and then we'll roll out or hover out, depending how ghostly you get, at 4 p.m. So hope everyone can come out and join us.
That's going to be a fun time.
No report, Mayor.
Anything on the other side of the aisle?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to report that the current lake level is 516.87 feet.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. No gloating, no nothing?
Well, since you bring it up, it was a hard-fought battle, and neck to the first inning, and but Chief Deaver's already thrown out the yellow flag, and so we'll have to come back next year to see how this turns out. He's got his Defriend the Fire Department shirt being made right now.
I have a quick report. I wanted to brag on our city's budget and finance teams. In September, at the end of September, we were notified by GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, that the city is now a Triple Crown winner, which means that we receive all 3 awards that GFOA hands out. One for our excellence in financial reporting, our annual report, one for the popular annual report, which is an abbreviated, somewhat condensed version of our annual report, and then one on our distinguished budget presentation. So we are one of only 317 organizations nationwide who received this award. It's a new program and a new designation for them, but I'm super proud of them and all the work that they do every day. So we just wanted to take a second. Also, I wanted to mention we have some honor students in our audience today. I believe they're from NCTC here in political science, and I just wanted to congratulate them on their honor award and also for being interested in local government and being at our council meeting. And when you're ready to join the workforce, come back and see us.
Thank you.
Mayor, nothing to report, but congrats to the fire department on the award that they received tonight and on that come behind wind on Saturday.
Mayor, Council, I just wanted to let you all know that I'm looking forward to this Saturday for the Love of Lewisville, a day of community service. So we have a lot of Lewisville businesses and some of our churches city council participation and participation from directors, but just looking at doing some small projects for some of Lewisville's residents, and it looks like it's going to be good weather too, so.
Looking forward to it. Councilmember Kelly?
Sure. Yeah.
For this one, yeah, this one, yeah.
So first off, that was my first bet on the badge on Saturday. That was so much fun. So anybody who missed that, make plans for next year to come. It was fun. We had a great time out there. Secondly, also on October 29th, Council has our annual fall festival. It is all kinds of family fun, spooks, ghosts, and pumpkins and hay and all kinds of great things to do out there as a family. That's from 5 to 8. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Councilmember Green?
Nothing to report.
Don't forget that there'll be a famous Castle Hills band that'll be on display later that evening as well. So I want to give you, I'll do that for you.
A councilman of dubious guitar talent might be playing that. So yes.
But also on October 25th, we'll have our open house for the Unified Development Code that will be held at, at the Grand Theater at 100 North Charles Street. Come out. There are a lot of people who've been asking me, some very particular, our seniors have been asking about getting the granny flats or the accessory dwelling units. It is coming, December 1st. If all things go smoothly, after this public open house, we'll have that one piece taken care of. So that's all I have, and I'm happy that we finally got there.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Meredith, I'll come back to the city manager in a sec.
First of all, I want to thank the city of Lewisville for being a part of the Brewfest for the 10th year and for the shared table. I thoroughly enjoyed the shared table and definitely will be back next year. Sparrow and Maine is great as well. Library events for the week, preserving family recipes for adults, Tuesday, October 18th, 6 to 7 p.m. Registration required at the computer lab. Story time at Dragon Park for families with children of all ages, Friday, October 21st, 9 to 9:30. No registration required at Dragon Park. And Slightly Spooky Teen Night, Franken Toys and Hocus Pocus for teens age 13 to 18, Friday, October 21st, 6:30 to 9. Registration is required at the Lewisville Public Library East doors. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. City manager.
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to congratulate LISD because their Rover program, their school resource officer Rover program, just won an award from the Texas chapter of Public Risk Management Association, and so they've given us congratulations because obviously that partnership with the police departments have been integral to making sure that happens. So I wanted to congratulate us for our ongoing partnership with LISD and thank the council for their support on that because that was a very quick decision we had to make, and very impressive that we could get everyone in our LISD boundaries on the same page. So that was great. And then I also wanted to thank all of the team for their work on the public safety building. We are just moving into building permits right now, and I will tell you it has been exceptional that our architectural team could get a project of this magnitude done, as well as get through permitting and get through all the planning processes and get to council and the budgeting within less than a year. That's exceptional. So I really want to thank all the staff for all your hard work.
That also translates to the development community. So if you're watching this, developers know that we move quick, but with detail. So I appreciate all of staff's work on that. I did have a couple of quick things. Number one, tomorrow at noon, from noon to 1, but only about 30 minutes or so is going to be like actual content. But we're having our latest quarterly Meet the Mayor event and get updated on a few things that are out there in the world, especially the UDC, the Unified Development Code. We're going to be talking a bit about that. We're going to talk about some new Prairie Award and ideas that we're doing with green space and a couple of other things. So come on out. We'll have some light snacks, and of course afterwards maybe have lunch with the mayor if you've got time. I want to talk briefly about this past weekend. We have been running with city-sponsored events for the last month or so, and I wanted to take a second just to point out I went to 5, maybe 6 different community events that, while they may have been supported in some small or large way by the city, they were not run by the city. They were all community groups, organizations, volunteers. It was awesome. And that, guys, that's community. I love what we do as the city of Lewisville to provide great opportunities for our residents. But at the end of the day, real ownership comes from our residents putting their own blood, sweat, tears, and time and creating events for the rest of the community. And it was an amazing weekend. I had such a blast just running from thing to thing. So I want to thank all of those groups. If you were interested in finding out more about the details, I tagged many of them as I could on my social media page on Facebook. But I want to thank you for that. And that dovetails into this next weekend, which is the Love of Lewisville, and I know that hit a speed bump with COVID, so I'm excited to see this first kind of getting the wheels back on the bus. We've got some great partnerships going with local businesses and community groups, and of course our faith homes as well. But that I expect to really blow up once we've kind of gotten this year figured out, and next year really see that hit the ground running. But it's a great opportunity to give back to the community in a little bit of a structured way. I mean, the one thing that the city can do really well is we can identify need, but we can't necessarily fix all the needs. So we need to figure out how to do that, and we do that through our not-for-profits, our faith homes, our volunteer organizations, our school districts, and all those other entities that make a community a home. So appreciate the staff ahead of time for this coming weekend. I'm sure it'll be fun. With that, we do have a closed session. So in accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney pending litigation, City of Lewisville, Texas versus Texas Bank and PNC Bank National Association, cause number CV-2022-01746, County Court at Law Number 2, Denton County, Texas, Section 551.072, Real Estate Property Acquisition, and Section 551.087, Economic Development, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We are going to convene into closed session. Council, we are reconvened into regular session. Is there any action to be taken?
Yes, I have the motion here. I move to settle City of Lewisville, Texas versus Texas Bank and PNC Bank National Association, cause number CV-2022-01746, pending in County Court at Law Number 2, Denton County, Texas, to resolve all claims related to the above referenced matter and the city's condemnation of the property in fee simple for the construction, use, maintenance, and operation of the Lewisville Public Safety Complex expansion for a total of $1,750,000 in accordance with the Special Commissioner's Award previously deposited in the registry of the court, $50,000 for the relocation expenses, benefits, and assistance authorized by state and federal law, and a move-out date of no later than March 24th, 2023, and to authorize the city manager or her designee and the city attorney or her designee to execute any necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Yep.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. As there is no additional action to be taken tonight on the Lewisville City Council agenda, we are adjourned. That is 8:13.
I'll get you this time.